There's a scale that measures human cognitive ability from severely impaired to genius. It determines who struggles with basic life tasks and who revolutionizes entire fields of human knowledge, who needs constant supervision, and who changes the course of history. It's called the IQ scale, and the distance between the bottom and the top is so vast that people at opposite ends might as well be different species. In 1905, French psychologist Alfred Binet created the first intelligence test to identify children who needed special education. He discovered something terrifying. Cognitive ability varies so dramatically that some children at age 10 had the mental capacity of a 5-year-old, while others had the capacity of a 15-year-old. Same age. 5-year gap in mental capability. The difference wasn't effort or education, it was fundamental processing power. In 1939, David Wechsler created the modern IQ test and established that 100 is average. He found that 68% of people score between 85 and 115. They're the normal range, but here's what's disturbing. That means 16% of people function below 85. Struggling with tasks, the majority finds simple, and 16% function above 115, finding easy what others consider impossible. In 1971, researchers tracked 5,000 children with IQs above 140 into adulthood. They became professors, doctors, engineers, and scientists at rates 30 times higher than the general population. They earned advanced degrees at 50 times the normal rate. They filed patents, published books, and won prestigious awards. High IQ at age 10 predicted lifetime achievement with terrifying accuracy. Intelligence isn't just a number, it's destiny. But here's what should disturb anyone who believes in equality. The gap between intelligence levels isn't small, it's catastrophic. Someone at IQ 70 can't understand concepts that someone at IQ 100 finds obvious. Someone at IQ 100 can't comprehend ideas that someone at IQ 130 sees instantly. And someone at IQ 130 looks at IQ 160 genius-level work and recognizes they're outmatched. The levels aren't just different, they're unbridgeable. This is every level of intelligence explained in detail, what life actually looks like at each level, and why the gap between them might be the most important factor determining your entire life trajectory. Level 1 IQ range, below 70. This is the clinical threshold for intellectual disability. If you score below 70 on a standardized IQ test, you're in the bottom 2% of cognitive function. This isn't an insult. It's a medical diagnosis that fundamentally changes your life. What life looks like at this level. You struggle with tasks most people consider automatic. Reading a bus schedule is challenging. Making change for a purchase requires concentration. Following multi-step instructions is difficult. Understanding abstract concepts like democracy or justice is nearly impossible. Your brain processes concrete information but struggles with abstraction. The brutal reality. Most people at this level require some form of assistance throughout life. The severity varies. IQ 65 is very different from IQ 55, but independence is limited. You might work simple jobs with supervision. You might live in supported housing. You understand basic cause and effect, but planning for the future, understanding complex social situations, or managing finances independently is beyond your cognitive capacity. But here's what separates the levels within this range. IQ 65 now at intellectual disability. You can learn basic academic skills with extra time and support. You can work, live somewhat independently, and have relationships. IQ 59 and 65 is moderate. You can learn self-care and simple work tasks, but independent living is unlikely. Below 50 is severe to profound. You need constant care. Many never develop functional language. Society pretends everyone can achieve anything with enough effort. That's a comfortable lie. Someone with IQ 65 cannot become a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. The cognitive demands of those professions require processing capacity they don't have. Effort can't overcome fundamental brain architecture. The ceiling is real and unchangeable. Level 2. Below average. IQ range. 70 to 85. Not disabled enough for support services. Not average enough to succeed easily. You're in the bottom 16th percentile of intelligence, which means 84% of people are smarter than you. And you probably know it. What life looks like at this level. But struggled. Reading comprehension is weak. You can read words, but extracting meaning from complex text is hard. Math beyond basic arithmetic is challenging. You work jobs that don't require problem-solving or abstract thinking, warehouse work, delivery driving, manual labor, simple retail. But they're the ceiling. You're smart enough to recognize that you're not smart. You see others grasp concepts quickly while you struggle. You notice that people get impatient when explaining things to you. You've learned to nod along in conversations where you're lost, pretending to understand to avoid looking stupid. But here's what makes this level particularly difficult. Society expects you to function at average level. There are no accommodations. No extra support. You're supposed to understand legal documents, medical information, financial planning, and complex bureaucracy. But your cognitive capacity makes all of this genuinely difficult. You're stuck between the support given to intellectual disability and the expectations placed on average intelligence. You can learn specific tasks through repetition, but adapting to new situations or learning complex systems is hard. Management positions are unlikely. They require planning, abstract thinking, and handling unpredictable problems. You'll work, pay taxes, and contribute to society, but advancement is limited by cognitive capacity, not lack of effort. The statistics are harsh. People in this IQ range are overrepresented in poverty, unemployment, and incarceration, not because they're bad people, but because modern society's complexity exceeds their processing capacity. Following rules is harder when you don't fully understand why rules exist. Avoiding scams is harder when detecting deception requires cognitive nuance you don't possess. Level 3. 85 to 100. Below average to average. This is the lower half of normal. You're in the 16th to 50th percentile. Half the population is smarter than you. Half is dumber. You're the lower end of average, which means you function fine in society, but don't excel at anything requiring significant cognitive horsepower. You completed high school, maybe some college, retail manager, skilled trades, customer service. You can learn systems if they're well documented. You can follow processes if they're clearly laid out. You're competent at routine tasks. But here's the limitation. Novel problem solving is hard. When the procedure doesn't cover the situation, you struggle. When you need to adapt quickly to changing circumstances, you're slower than people above 100. When you need to understand complex systems or abstract concepts, you hit your ceiling fast. College is possible, but difficult. STEM fields are probably beyond reach. The math and abstract reasoning are too challenging. Liberal arts might work if you're conscientious and work hard, but you're not going to graduate school. Advanced education requires cognitive capacity you don't have. Management is possible for small teams doing routine work. Complex problem solving or innovation isn't your strength. You can execute plans others create. You can't create plans yourself. This isn't a moral failing, it's cognitive capacity. You're the bulk of the workforce. You do essential work that keeps society functioning. But you're not making decisions about how society functions. The people at 115 plus are making those decisions. You're implementing them. But there's a reason you vote based on simple messages rather than analyzing complex policy papers. The cognitive load of policy analysis exceeds your comfortable processing capacity. Level 4, 100 to 115, average to above average. This is the upper half of normal. You're 50th to 84th percentile. You're smarter than half the population, but not smart enough to be considered gifted. You're the competent majority that makes modern society function. You graduated high school easily, completed college without excessive struggle. You work professional jobs: teacher, nurse, middle manager, accountant, sales manager. You can learn complex systems with effort. You can solve novel problems if you have time to think. You're good at your job. This IQ range is perfect for professional employment. You're smart enough to handle complexity, but not so smart that you're bored by routine work. You can manage teams, follow strategic plans, and adapt to changing circumstances. Corporate America is built for you. But here's where the ceiling appears. Advanced technical work is challenging. Engineering, hard sciences, complex programming, advanced mathematics. These fields start getting difficult. You can work in them if you're highly conscientious and work very hard. But you're not going to be the innovator. You're going to be the implementer. You can get a bachelor's degree in most fields. Master's degree is achievable with hard work. PhD is possible in softer fields, unlikely in hard sciences. You're not stupid, far from it. But the cognitive demands of cutting-edge research or complex theoretical work push you to your limits. You're comfortable in most social situations. You understand abstract concepts well enough to discuss politics, philosophy, and culture. You read books, follow news, have opinions, but when you encounter someone at 130 plus, you might notice they're operating on a different level, making connections you don't see, understanding nuances you miss. You're smart enough to recognize you're not the smartest person in the room. Level 5, 115 to 130, above average to superior. This is where gifted begins. You're 84th to 98th percentile. You're smarter than 84 to 98% of people. You've always known you were smart. Teachers told you. Tests confirmed it. You could always understand things faster than classmates, and you probably assumed everyone else could too until you realized they couldn't. School was easy. You got A's without studying much. College was straightforward. You chose your difficulty level by selecting harder or easier courses. You work jobs that require significant cognitive processing: engineer, doctor, lawyer, software developer, researcher, executive. You can handle complex abstract work. You can see patterns others miss. You can learn new skills quickly. You can adapt to novel situations effectively. Corporate leadership is accessible. You have the cognitive horsepower to understand business strategy, market dynamics, and organizational complexity. But here's where life gets interesting. You're smart enough to succeed in most fields, but you're not rare enough to be truly exceptional. There are 45 million Americans in this IQ range, which is impressive, but not unique. You can become a successful professional, but probably not a field-defining genius. You're smart enough to find most people boring. Conversations with the average person IQ 100 feel slow. They struggle with concepts you find obvious. You've learned to hide your impatience, but it's there. Yet when you encounter someone at 145 plus, you experience what average people experience with you: being intellectually outmatched. It's humbling. You can get a PhD in most fields. You can do original research. You can contribute to your field. But revolutionary breakthroughs, those tend to come from 130 plus. You're smart enough to execute others' visions brilliantly, but generating paradigm-shifting insights is rare at this level. You're smart enough to recognize truly exceptional intelligence when you see it, and that recognition shows you your own limits. Someone at IQ 105 thinks they're as smart as anyone. You know you're not. Level 6, 130 to 145, gifted to highly gifted. This is the 98th to 99.9th percentile. You're smarter than 98-99.9% of people. There are only 6 million Americans at this level. You've spent your entire life being the smartest person in most rooms, and it's been isolating. School was absurdly easy. You were reading at college level in elementary school. You finished tests in 10 minutes, while others needed the full hour. Teachers didn't know what to do with you. You were bored constantly. Your parents were told you were gifted, which meant nothing changed except now everyone expected you to be perfect. You can succeed in any field. The cognitive demands of medicine, law, engineering, research, or business strategy are well within your capacity. You're likely in academia, advanced technical fields, or leadership positions. You see solutions to problems others don't recognize as problems yet. But here's the curse of this level. You're too smart for normal life, but not smart enough to be recognized as truly exceptional. You're in the top 2%, but there are still 6 million Americans at your level or higher. You're not unique. You're just rare. Finding intellectual peers is hard. Most people can't keep up with your conversation, speed, pattern recognition, or abstract thinking. You've learned to dumb down your communication, avoid complex topics, and pretend ideas are less obvious than they are. Dating is particularly difficult. You need someone who can match you intellectually, but only 2% of people can, and not all of them are compatible on other dimensions. Everyone expects you to be successful, brilliant, and revolutionary, but being top 2% doesn't guarantee world-changing success. It requires opportunity, discipline, emotional stability, and luck. Many people at this level are successful professionals who aren't famous or revolutionary. Society expects genius. You deliver excellent professional work. The gap between expectation and reality is frustrating. The imposter syndrome. You're smart enough to recognize how much smarter people at 150 plus. You can see the gap between yourself and true genius. Most people think you're brilliant. You know you're just very smart. That knowledge is both accurate and demoralizing. Level 7, 145 to 160. Highly gifted to exceptionally gifted. This is 99.999999999 percentile. There are 330,000 Americans at this level. You've never met anyone smarter than you outside of specialized environments. And you've learned that being this smart is often more burden than blessing. You taught yourself to read before kindergarten. You completed high school math by age 12. You finished college by 18, or got bored and dropped out because the pace was too slow. Standard education wasn't designed for you, it was designed for average, and average is 5 standard deviations below your processing speed. You can do anything, which makes choosing impossible should you solve physics problems, write novels, build companies, revolutionize medicine. Every path is accessible, which means opportunity cost is crushing. While people at IQ 120 follow clear career paths, you're paralyzed by infinite options. This is where paradigm-shifting breakthroughs happen. Einstein was likely 160, 165. Feynman was 145, 155. This level produces Nobel Prize winners, field-defining researchers, and revolutionary thinkers. Not everyone at this level achieves these things. Many underachieve due to poor discipline or life circumstances, but the capacity is there. But here's the brutal isolation. You cannot have a normal conversation. Small talk is torture. Most people's conversation is so slow and obvious that engaging with it requires acting. You're pretending to think about things you understood 30 seconds ago while they're still processing. Every social interaction requires you to hide your actual cognitive level. Studies show higher depression rates at this IQ level. Why? Because you see problems everywhere and understand how hard they are to solve. You recognize human irrationality, societal dysfunction, and existential threats that others don't perceive. Ignorance is bliss. You have no ignorance. Finding a compatible partner is statistically absurd. You need someone at 135 plus for intellectual compatibility, which is 1% of people. Then they need to be your preferred gender, available, physically attractive to you, emotionally compatible, and in your geographic area. The math says you might never find them. Many people at this level achieve less than people at 130. Why? Because standard life paths feel pointless. Corporate hierarchies are obviously arbitrary. Educational credentials are clearly unnecessary. You learned the material in a fraction of the time. Motivation requires meaning, and most societal structures feel meaningless when you see through them. Level 8, 160 to 180, exceptionally to profoundly gifted. This is 99.99 TERS percentile and beyond. There are 33,000 Americans at this level. You're 1 in 10,000. You've probably never met anyone at your cognitive level outside of specialized environments for the exceptionally gifted. Normal life is impossible. You're bored by everything designed for normal humans. You read college textbooks for fun as a child. You understand graduate-level material in hours. You see patterns in everything and can't turn it off. Your brain is constantly making connections, solving problems, and identifying optimizations that don't need identifying. You can't talk to normal people. The gap is too large. Explaining your thoughts requires so much simplification that the meaning is lost. It's like trying to explain color to someone who's colorblind. The framework for understanding doesn't exist. You've learned to stay quiet because attempting to communicate is frustrating for everyone involved. Everyone expects you to cure cancer, solve climate change, or revolutionize technology. The pressure is immense, but being this smart doesn't come with instruction manual. You have the processing power, but not necessarily the discipline, opportunity, or emotional stability to deploy it effectively. This is the level that produces humanity's greatest achievements. Newton, Einstein, von Neumann, these minds see what others can't, think what others won't, and create what others consider impossible. But even at this level, revolutionary achievement requires more than intelligence. It requires obsession, opportunity, and often luck. But here's the curse. You see humanity's problems clearly: climate change trajectory, resource depletion, nuclear proliferation risk, AI alignment challenges. You understand these threats at a level most people can't, and you recognize how difficult, perhaps impossible, they are to solve. That knowledge is psychologically crushing. Many hiding their intelligence because revealing it creates more problems than it solves. You learn to pretend to be less intelligent than you are, which means every interaction involves acting. Level 9, 180 to 200. Profoundly to immeasurably gifted. This is beyond 99.99999 percentile. There are perhaps 3,000 Americans at this level. Maybe testing at this range is unreliable because there aren't enough people to norm against. You're so rare that you're a statistical anomaly. You're not relatable as a human being. Your cognitive processing is so far beyond normal that describing it to others is impossible. You understood advanced mathematics as a child. You read academic papers for entertainment. You can learn a field's fundamentals in days that take others years. Standard IQ tests cap around 160, 170 because they can't reliably measure higher. If you score at the ceiling, you might be 165 or 195. The test can't distinguish. Specialized high-range tests exist, but their validity is questionable. You're beyond reliable measurement. This level produces the rarest intellectual achievements. Von Neumann, IQ estimated 180, he 190, could multiply 8-digit numbers in his head instantly and spoke 8 languages. Terence Tao likely 180, 190, published his first paper at 15 and won the Fields Medal at 31. These aren't just smart people, they're cognitive outliers that reshape human knowledge. But here's the dark reality. This level of intelligence is often debilitating rather than empowering. Your brain is so far ahead of others that collaboration is nearly impossible. Your ideas are too advanced for peer review. Reviewers can't evaluate what they can't understand. Your work is often recognized only after your death. When humanity catches up, there's no one to talk to, ever. The person at IQ 140 feels isolated because only 2% of people can follow them. You feel isolated because 99.999% of people can't follow you. The loneliness isn't occasional, it's permanent and absolute. What's the point? You can see solutions to humanity's problems, but implementing them requires navigating systems designed by and for people. 5 standard deviations. The bureaucracy, politics, and social friction required to change anything important exceed your tolerance for stupidity. Level 10, above 200, immeasurably gifted. This level is theoretical. The highest reliably recorded IQs are around 210. Whether higher exists is unknown. These people are so rare that they might be statistical artifacts or measurement errors. But if they exist, they experience a cognitive reality incomprehensible to everyone else. You're beyond human experience. Your thought processes have no common reference with normal cognition. You don't think faster, you think in ways others can't conceive of. But these numbers are dubious. Testing methodology at extreme ranges is unreliable. The tests weren't designed for scores this high. Whether these measurements mean anything is questionable. Many people who claim IQs above 200 haven't achieved revolutionary work. Why? Either the measurements are wrong, or intelligence alone isn't sufficient for achievement. Discipline, opportunity, emotional stability, and social skills matter. A brain processing at 200 plus IQ who can't collaborate, handle criticism, or navigate society might achieve less than someone at 150 who can. If people at this level exist, we can't understand them. The gap between 100 and 200 is the same as the gap between 100 and someone with intellectual disability. What does conversation look like when you're having it with someone 5 standard deviations less intelligent than you? It probably looks like you don't bother having conversations.